Hello, my name is Tangee Summerhill Bishop, and I am the proud owner of Happy Baskets. We are in my warehouse right now. I always tell people this is Santa's workshop south of the North Pole. So welcome today. Today we're going to talk about baskets, which is what I do. And we want to talk about two different types of baskets. Any container can be a basket. I always like to tell people that. It can be a plate, it can be a tray, it can be, cardboard boxes, it can be a metal container. So we're gonna go over first cardboard boxes, and then we're gonna go over a metal container and what you could put inside of it and how it will look different. And we're also gonna show two different types of displays. So once it's all done, you're gonna have two very different looking baskets, and you can like either one, both of them, but hopefully this will help you so that when you create your own basket, it will be a little easier next time. So let's just jump right in. All right, so I have two different types of cardboard containers. Now these can be recycled at the end of it. They fold down nice and easily, or you can store them and they can be reused. So one of the things is, okay, so what do you actually put inside of a box? That's a great question. So let's go for that. So right now it's empty. If I put everything inside, you're not gonna be able to see it. So we want to build it up. One of the ways in which you can build it up is with paper. And I use recycled newspaper. And what I do is I actually fill it to the very top. Now I will tell you, the different individuals that help me during the season, everybody kind of has their own unique way on how they put the paper inside. It can go smush it in. Some people fold it really nicely. At the end of the day, as long as you have a nice flat surface that you can work with. All right, there we go. The box is filled and ready for all of its ingredients. So with this one, I'm gonna put in some wine. Now with our wine, we tend to wrap it in cello. Again, with this, we decided we're using a nice, gonna make someone's day with a nice bright yellow. And so I'm gonna wrap this wine up. And there's all different kinds of cello out there in the world. You can use different colors. Again, this one I'm just choosing to use yellow. And I'm gonna put some tape on the back and down on the bottom. And then you have a wrapped bottle of wine. And again, you can use sparkling cider, you can wrap any type of bottle just to make it look a little nicer. And then I call it a shoelace bow around the neck of it. Just something nice and simple. And there we go. Two little loops, and then cut. Angle the cuts one side and then the other, and voila, you have a nice wrapped bottle of wine. Okay, so now I'm gonna grab the container, and I always start with the back first, and always start with a tall item in the back. Now I can tell you I've wrapped a variety of things throughout owning Happy Baskets. And if you don't have something that is tall and solid on top, your basket and the cello will look very, we call it blousy. It's very like droopy, saggy. Where if you have something tall and solid in the back, it helps to keep it a nice flat surface when you are building your basket. All right, so here we go. Now, for me, with this particular basket, so I have I have crackers, and I'm gonna add popcorn. I have two different types of popcorn that I can use. I like to give people a variety of popcorn, and I'm gonna squish it in a little bit. So there's one. So with this we have caramel corn and cheese. And I'm just simply taping it to the top. And then I put the wine right in the center. And my favorite friend is double-sided tape with this particular basket. So that way the wine will stay. And then we're gonna put some cookies on one side. And again, just building from the back forward. Now what's nice with this particular basket, because the wine is taller than the cracker in the back, it's gonna allow it for it to be, the top of the basket will be right on top of the wine. And we're gonna add some cheese crackers. Some wine and, I think they're wine and cheese. And again, I'm putting a double-sided tape on the side and then on the back, so that way it will attach itself to the product. Then we're gonna put a box of cheese. And people ask me, you know, is the cheese, does it need to be in the refrigerator? No, this type of cheese is shelf stable. Obviously, if it was 100 degrees in here, then that's not good. It would need to be refrigerated. But in most cases, the spreadable cheese is usually okay. And we're gonna add some nuts. I'm gonna throw some nuts here. And some more double-sided tape just to secure it. And then we'll add some cookies. The other thing is you can add whatever you want. So if you are, you know, making a basket for somebody that is gluten-free or keto, there are so many products out there that you can mix and match and do different things. So this is just one idea, but there's a lot of products that are out there nowadays for the different dietary restrictions. So then now we have shred. So shred, we just put a little bit in the front. And a little bit on the sides. Now, just so you know, we're gonna short form this a little bit, but so that way you can get the idea. So with the basket, with the shred, one thing, I mean, you can leave it like this. It all depends on the look you want. If you want a clean look, then you can tuck it in or you can cut it. So that way it's nice and clean, or you can leave it a little messy looking. Again, it's whatever look that you are going for. And this particular shred is wax shred, so it tends to tends to stick to everything. So there we go. So now it's like your basket is done. Okay, this is great. If I take it out the door and I put it in the car and I go sideways, it's gonna all fall over. Well, then now you need to have some cello. All right, so for the cello, there's all different types of that as well. You can get a bag of cello. Oh, it's way over there. You can get bag cello, where it's a bag and you can stick this in a bag and then wrap it up. You can use shrink wrap, which is where you use a hair dryer, and I can show that on the next, when we do the next basket. You can use a hair dryer to shrink wrap it so it sucks really nicely to the product. But I typically just use plain old cello and wrap it by hand. All right, so for the purposes of this video, we're gonna say this basket is done, and now we're gonna wrap it. So to figure out how much wrap you actually need is what we typically do here at the warehouse, is we take a measuring tape and we'll measure the height of the basket to the tallest point, and then we'll go a few inches above, and we'll double that with the width of the basket. So that way when we're producing a lot of baskets, we can just simply roll out a variety of 20, 50, however much cello we need at a time. But that also tells you how much cello that you would need, so that way you can save it and you don't waste it for the next time. And again, you can always add, depending on how much cello you want to have on top, you can just add however many inches you want. But that way you can not use the whole roll of cello if you don't need to. You may need to. All right, so now I'm gonna wrap the basket itself. And here comes a little bit of noise. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put the cello in the center of the table, and I'm gonna put the basket in the center of the cello. So the goal is to have the sides of the the sides of the basket be in the middle, as well as the front and the back of the basket be in the middle. So that way the cellophane will wrap the entire basket and it will look nice. Here we go. All right, so I'm left-handed in case you haven't noticed. So here we go. And so with this, what we do is we do the sides first, and I fold them in two parts. I don't roll them, but I'll fold this in half and then in half again, and then tape it, and that will be the side of the basket. All right, the sides of the basket are done. Yay! All right, now we're gonna go for the top. Now what I'll tell you about the top of the basket is the goal is to not strangle the cello. And when I first started out and when I first bought Happy Baskets, the previous owner would always say, Tangee, please be gentle to the cello. And the reason why is because if you crinkle it really good and it's not quite the right spot, then you have, because cello, as for those of you who have worked with cello, know that it has a memory, and then all of a sudden it's no longer flush and straight, but it'll have a lot of creases and stuff that aren't necessary. So, all right, so here we go. So I'm gonna grab some ribbon, and what I'm gonna do is I'm pulling the cello up, and then I'm gonna reach in and grab it from the sides. And the goal is to meet it right in the middle. And then if you have any extra, we call it blousing, then we pull it up. And now it's time for the ribbon. So the ribbon, what we do is we put it in half, wrap it around the neck of the cello, the top of the cello, and then tie it into a knot. There you go. And now we have the ends. They're like, okay, what do I do about the ends? Well, I'm gonna straighten this out, I'm gonna cut it, and then stick it underneath just like you would for wrapping a present. So there, I've cut it, and now I'm gonna put tape on it. And there you go, there's the side of it. Now let me do the other side. Okay, so there you go. And then if you still have a little bit, like with this particular cello, it is thicker, so it's not as easily applicable. So what I would do is I would just pull this up a little bit, and then take a piece of tape and tape it up, so that way it's not glossy right there. Okay, so there you go. You've done a basket, but you're like, well, wait, that's great. But do we get to do a bow? Well, of course we do a bow. So now it's time for a bow. So, and the hair, we call this the hair. The hair will get trimmed as well. So with the bow, again, there are all kinds of videos out there to how to do bows. So I'm just gonna do 5 loops, and I just kind of do it on both sides. That way I know that it's even. So we'll just do a quick little bow here and put it on top of the basket. And again, with bows, you can do what we already did was a shoelace bow. And now I'm just gonna do a 5 loop bow, and you can do large bows, small bows. There's even apparatuses that will help you make the bows as well. Because I will tell you, doing 400 bows by hand, I would have major carpal tunnel if that happened. So I have assistance as well. All right, so there we go. We got 5 loops. And I'm gonna get tie that with the ribbon. That's the one nice thing about bows, is that you can use all different colors, all different large or small. You can customize it to whatever the basket that you're doing. And now I'm just gonna fluff the bow a little bit. And now I'm gonna touch the hair. All right, so with the height of the cello on the other side of the bow, it can be as tall or short, whatever you would like. Okay, so that bow looks great. Then we just have one other thing, is we add a tail. All right, so I take one piece of ribbon, fold it in half, take a stapler, staple it in, stick it off to the side, or you can put it down the middle, whatever you would like, or you could even include it in the bow. It's your preference. And then we trim. And there you go. There's your basket. I hope that helps. And if you have any other questions, feel free to let me know. Let's talk about another type of basket. So we did a basket earlier that was filled with paper, recycled newspaper. This one, if you look inside of here, that's a lot of paper that would have to go in there. And so instead of using a bunch of recycled newspaper, what we tend to use is cardboard. And so we take a box that is fit and perfect for this particular container, and we stick it into the basket. Now the space is filled. And again, going back to what I had said earlier, is we want to make sure that we have it nice, somewhat level. Well, guess what? We have a top. And with these, this is actually laser cut so that it fits inside this particular basket. But again, you can do this easily at home as well. Find a box that fits in your container, get a piece of cardboard, flip it upside down, circle it, cut it out with some scissors, and voila, you have your own lid. All right, so there we go. So with this particular basket, the one thing I'll tell you, the way it's designed, it is very front heavy. So, because we have lost sodas and beer before because they've pitched forward. So with this particular basket, what we tend to do is we put something in the back to kind of help us anchor it down, so that way there's no pitching forward. So we're going to add beer and wine, and I'm going to go to the side here so I can make sure that we are somewhat in the middle. And putting our glue dots. Glue dots tend to work better than double-sided tape in this particular instance, because it sticks better to the glass as well as the metal, or as well as the cardboard. So so I've been asked what kind of glue dots. So there's a variety of kind. I have a thicker kind that I purchased off of Amazon. But the latest one that I'm using is Scotch, and I've gotten this from our supplier. And what I like about these better is the other ones, which the dots are thicker. These ones are thinner. And here's the thing, with the thicker ones, they work great. They adhere perfectly, but as soon as it's cold, like right when we're filming this, it's actually 32 degrees outside. Glue dots don't work well. They tend to start shriveling up and they will separate from whatever they're being held to. This Scotch brand is a thinner dot and is nicer because it tends to stay, and even if it's cold or hot, or if it's, because if it is too hot, they tend to melt. So let's just put that out there with some of the temperatures that we've had over the summer. So again, watch your temperatures, but usually in all temperatures, this brand here, because it's so thin, it tends to work in the cold or in the heat. So putting glue dots on the bottom and the sides. And what's neat about this is that this particular one has comes with little plastic so you don't get the glue dots stuck. For those of you who have used glue dots and you know how they get stuck, you can stick your skin and it takes your skin off with it. So that's what you can continue to do, to put glue dots on the bottom. And as I say that, it's gonna, so we're going to, so you're gonna continue with that, put the glue dots on, and I'm gonna have the basket that sets up the front of the basket. And then I have putting salsa in this basket as well. All right, so now that we have our soda and beer lined up in front of the basket, and we have our salsa in the front, now we're going to, in a triangle shape, put two products. We're gonna put chips, and two different types of chips, tortilla chips and kettle chips, in the shape of a triangle, so that way it fills up the back of the basket. So here we go. And there it is in the basket. And now we put the sides of the basket on, which in this case, it's gonna be apple chips and popcorn. So the apple chips go on one side, and the popcorn goes in the other. And again, you can tape. You can tape or use glue dots. Tape the packaging together. So now we have kind of the front. Then we're gonna add some cookies as well to the front. And we're gonna put some goodies behind it as well. So we not only have goodies in the very front, but we also have goodies in the back. All right, so we have the front of the basket done. Now we need to do the back of the basket. So here we go, carefully turning the basket around. Again, in a triangle formation, we're going to put the back of the product in the basket. So again, it's nice and, so the basket itself is nice and full. And do the same thing on this side. And this way you have a nice full basket. One last thing for this particular basket that we do is we put some trail mix and nuts and cashews in the very front. And again, you can use glue dots or tape. For this purposes, I'm just using tape. All right, so your basket is basically done. Oh, I guess I need to tape that down, don't I? So let's give this a little tape down. Again, using the triangle theory. Okay, so this is great, but you're like, Tangee, there's a bunch of cardboard showing. Exactly, so now we need to use some shred. Shred is now our friend. So here we go. And what we do in this particular case is we use double-sided tape. So that way we can put double-sided tape down onto the cardboard. So that way the shred will stick better to it. Again, a little secret. And what's nice with the shred is that it fills up a lot of space. So there you go. And now I'm gonna put some shred on, all the way around the basket. we have shred all throughout the basket. As you can tell, this one looks a little differently. We have shred behind the bottles as well as in front and the center of them all. And you might say, but Tangee, that's a lot of shred. I don't have that much shred on hand. Here's something that you can do. So again, what we started with was this, just a standard piece of cardboard. So, but if you don't have a lot of shred or a particular color of shred, then just use tissue paper and cover it. So that way, whether it's like this particular is black, but if you have another color or if you have white or yellow, just cover it with tissue paper. That way, it doesn't matter if you have a lot of shred or not, because people won't know because it's the same color. Just a little quick tip. All right, so the basket is done. It just needs to get wrapped. So same thing as before, we would measure. Now with this particular one, I like to have a lot of hair on top. So now we're gonna get to wrapping. One of the things I want to point out to have your packaging look nice that I realized I didn't bring up before, and that is taking the sides of your product and folding down the corners. That will also help your product, help it look cleaner and nicer inside the container. So again, I've bunched up the cello. So it's right in the top. Now the top is not a wine bottle. The top is the top of the chips. Taking the ribbon. And tying it off. Now I'm going to do the sides, even though this is an oval container and not square, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to straighten up the cello and cut it down and tape it underneath, just like you do when you're wrapping any kind of present. The one thing I want to point out is when you are working with metal containers and you're using cello sometimes, not all the times, is very thin and can rip really easily. So one of the recommendations that I would have if you're working with a metal container is put your tape around the very base of it, so that way any edges that are sharp, it's less likely to rip. All right, so we're gonna say we taped it all the way around. Now let's go back to and look, sometimes when you wrap, sometimes you have product sticking out. That is a real life situation. It can happen to you at home, or it can happen to us in the warehouse as well. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna stick it inside and we're gonna put tape on it. There we go. All right, so now it's time for the bow. So this time we're gonna use a different type of bow, and we're also gonna have a much higher hair, unlike the previous basket. So with this, I'm gonna use the deco mesh, and to measure how much you use, I just simply stretch out my arms and go that length. If you want to measure it out, you can, but there you go. That's how long I'm gonna use for my bow. Now with this, I have it's nice and long. I fold it in half and then fold it in half again. So there you go. And then I'm going to wrap it around, twist it in the center. And then I just wrap it with one loop. and then fluff it up. There you go. There's another basket. I hope these tips and tricks will help you in next time you make your basket. Have a great day.